Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andy. I work as operations manager here at IKYA Center. And
yes, good evening. My name is Nora, and I work as Ganapati coordinator at the center.
And welcome to our open house with IKYA about the upcoming continuation, really, of the spiritual education in IKYA Mantra with collection number 6. And it's interesting, I was reflecting on IKYA teaches that mantra have kind of been with humans as long as we've had a voice, I guess, and we've used mantra and vibration as a way of tuning in and growing for all of human history. It feels a little bit like IKYA Mantra have been around that long because to my understanding, he's been teaching IKYA Mantra since he basically started teaching here in Norway 30 years ago. So though this is collection 6, officially sort of the 6th year, it's really like collection 25 or 30 or something. So they've been around for a while.
And this vibrational love that we receive and tune to is so amazing. And to tuning to love and vibrate it inside out, such a gift. Yeah. I hope you get a lot out of this evening and ask your questions and really dig into everything that IKYA offers tonight, both with his words, but also vibrationally, like the mantras. So that's such a gift.
It is. And the history that I just touched on is actually an integral part of the foundation of these teachings, that IKYA has been slowly building and expanding foundation, kind of an upside down pyramid where we just have so many tools and techniques, IKYA meditation techniques, and then mantra. And then you have the crystal course, which has started, in August, and he's woven the educations together. He taught for a long time IKYA therapists in a vibrational medicine that he developed over these years. So there's all of these different ways, and he's created this mesh, kind of a network for support to bring this consciousness into incarnation, and you get to touch into it tonight. And mantra is one of the most integral parts of his education.
Oh. And the mantra is a practical tool, something we use daily, or not even once a day, but every time we breathe, we could use it. In every situation, you could always tap into these mantras and connect with more of yourself. So it's a fantastic way of being more than we are.
I titled tonight's open house on YouTube as "Become an Expert in Playing Your Part in the Symphony of Life." And I find that kind of interesting that it kind of talks about the mantras as being a way to learn more about yourself as an instrument. And I find that really exciting that I could actually become good at playing this instrument, whatever it is. I still don't really know what it is yet.
And then you can start playing with others.
Yes.
You connect.
Right, well that's the symphony part, right?
Yeah.
That we all have something to contribute, and it's really not a complete work of music without all of us. But preferably playing in tune if we can learn how to do that.
And we need more basses and trumpets and flutes and everything. So all kind of people you're all so warm welcome to be here tonight. Yeah. Should we say anything about the Ganapati or the structure?
We can just mention that part of the upgrade that we've done in the crystal course, we're bringing into the mantra course as well, and that is the Ganapati.
It's a Ganapati. What is that? It's actually students willing to take on a service role of walking ahead. And therefore we have smaller teams. We split up in teams, and then we talk about the principles and the teachings and where they hit us and where they enjoy us and where they challenge and stretch us. And we just dive in, and together we connect and really find the love for the spiritual path together. Yeah. And that's the Ganapati program that we also want to launch into this season of mantra singing, and it vibrates really high because it's a new concept. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. You will hear more about it, but that's just for now.
But it's a gear shift about really bringing this study to yet another level, and so we can go deeper and higher in how we study with the mantra and with IKYA as a spiritual teacher. So I think that that's it. The structure for tonight is that IKYA will join us here in a moment and give us a teaching around how we use mantra, why we use mantra, what are IKYA Mantra, many other things. But it's an open house, so it's really also about your questions and any other comments or perspectives that you'd like to bring to it. Not just questions, but also if you've been on the journey with IKYA and would like to share something, or if you are new or curious and wonder something, it's going to be an open field later on.
And like always, if you sit there with a question, don't be shy, because you're probably going to match with 10 other people thinking about the same.
You think it's a dumb question? It's not.
Never,
it's a great question, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
It's your evening.
Very
Welcome.
good. So I at least will be back with some practical details at the end, but yeah.
We'll do that.
So on with the show. IKYA will join us in a moment.
Welcome. Spiritual growth and true expansion is not a matter of being convinced. It's not a matter of having the right beliefs. It's a matter of deep transformational process. So it's not like if I convince you, then you will grow. It's not how it works. I can't convince you, and I will not. So please ask questions, but don't ask questions from wanting me to convince you, because it will not work. Our spiritual journey is about gradually becoming more aware of what we are, and gradually letting what we refer to as God within wake up. It's not you as a person waking up. It's that divine essence waking up from you. This is also why when the person wants to be convinced, it doesn't change anything. When you are ready, you are ready. And the way you know you're ready for awakening is that life begins to seem like an endless desert, and you're beginning to get thirsty. It's that. And when you start to get thirsty and you become aware of it, you also become aware of the fact that you're in a desert. And then you start looking, and you can't stop. And over time, you just get more thirsty and more desperate. And the more desperate we are, the more we are willing to do what it takes. And only then will we actually begin the process of waking up spiritually. Because until then, we'll still hope that we can find it where we are. That we don't have to change, that we don't have to do something differently. And then our approach to spirituality is more like, I will just be where I am, do what I do, and I will just like add stuff to make me feel better. And to most people, that is what spirituality is. That's what religion is making you feel better where you are. So you can be in your patterns, you can be in your suffering, you can be in everything that is deeply dysfunctional, but it feels better, and you can make up stories about yourself. That after all, I'm very special. After all, I'm loved. After all of that, instead of waking up. So in the beginning, we just try everything we can to just add stuff to the human. We add stuff and beliefs and practices to the person, hoping that that will be enough. But at some point, it doesn't work. At some point you understand that, oh, I'm actually in the way. I'm the blockage. I'm the very illusion. What do I do? Most people who come to me, they have reached that point. They're done. They've been trying to quench their thirst, but they realize that it's all sand, and they just get more thirsty. And that's fine. But it also means that you keep looking, and at some point, you figure out what to do. That's when the fun begins. But also, what is extremely challenging, because it means you cannot continue to be and do the same way. Waking up means a radical process where you figure out how to transcend everything you believe, every experience, every definition, everything you think you know, every identity, every manifestation. Because you begin to realize that what I often say is that your outer life are still the inside walls of our own mind. And so you realize that the desert is not real. You're actually in an ocean. But for as long as you are in the self, it's a desert. And the self can never find truth. It can never become true, no matter how much we try. And these inside walls of the mind are what is stopping you. It's only when you realize that you're willing to figure out, what do I actually have to do to move past this? Not just trying to make the walls look better. In the beginning we can just hang up, posters of the ocean, and we think, ooh, that's inspiring. But it will not quench your thirst. So gradually, we get it. And then, what do we actually do? And then we try different things, but we find out that most things will actually amplify the walls because they're part of it. They're part of the space of illusion. So what do we do? Studying with me is therefore extremely challenging because I teach you how to do it for real. And it means that you cannot just sit there, you cannot just participate, you cannot just believe something. You have to use what I give you, and then you transform. Then you dissolve everything, then you rebuild and you do it again. Then gradually, you move from a desert to the ocean. But it doesn't happen overnight. Most times when humans attempt this, they will spend their entire lifetime in an ashram, in deep spiritual practices, 24 hours a day. Then maybe after 60 years, they get a little woofed. Because that's what it takes. So, in this modern world, we have created in our civilization a collective illness, a mental illness of self-importance. Also meaning that when we going to spirituality, it's mostly about making other people believe that we're very spiritual and insightful. So often what we do is we just skim the surface and learn whatever it takes so we can impress others with how advanced we are. In our culture, people don't necessarily have the patience to do what it takes to go in to deep process. It takes time. It takes dedication. It takes concentration. It takes willingness and surrender. And it has to become permanent. So this thing where we shop around, we try a little bit of this and that, and then we just like, look at me, I'm spiritual. This is, when we look at the alternative movement, it's basically what it is. Modern spirituality, it's basically that. What we do here is make available what you will find in the deepest traditions. For those of you who have already been in them. And most of you coming to me, you've had lifetimes in those settings, and you know it. If you don't remember concretely, you have this sort of memory of you having been in settings of spiritual work, of deep dedication, and it's part of you. And then you incarnate into this modern world, and you do, what do I do? Like, and you need to reinvent. Because what happened in those lifetimes, your dedication was real, but because you were studying spiritual principles in a vacuum, disconnected from life, it was like testing things out in a lab, in a test tube, in a petri dish. And you can find things out, right? Because you have a specialized focus, and you can do that, but it's not the same as real life. And life is real life. A higher consciousness is an absolute presence to everything, absolute connectedness with everything. And always, well, I need to disconnect, travel away so I can be spiritual. That's a misunderstanding, but just like a lab, it is also valid, right? It's also necessary. But then, whatever we find out needs to be taken out of the lab and into the real world. And then we need to figure out, how does it work there? So many of you will have a knowledge inside of you. And what most people tell me over time is that they recognize everything I say because they've heard it before. So they're just, there it is. Yeah, there it is. Oh, yeah, I get that. Because it's inside of you. But when you then incarnate into this world, and now you have to figure out how to live it, how to be it, how to make your insights work in reality, through what you do, through what you manifest. That's a whole different thing, right? Then figure out something in a test tube, right? So those settings are the test tubes, and you've all been there. Otherwise, you will not be able to find me. But now, you've decided spiritually, I get it. That was a weakness. I was able to have a specialized focus and dedication, but it's actually not what it is about. It's living in harmony with what is. To learn how to be a co-creator in real time with everything, with all levels of consciousness and life at the same time. And most of you, somewhere, you are aware of it, but you simply have no idea. So what I do is to then reconnect you with your inner knowledge, to teach you what you already know but you don't know. And then also teach you, well, how do you apply it to real life? How do you go from having ideas and insights and realizations to living it actively in such a way that you become an awake part of creation? Because that is where the true spiritual journey is. So, in a way, the experiment of what we're offering through these teachings is saying how, or is it possible, when you incarnate into the human form, to study and practice the deepest spiritual principles and secrets, and at the same time be part of the world. Instinctively, because that is your experience, that no, that's not possible. It can't be done. You have to withdraw, you have to be somewhere special. You need to, be in a protected state, like a spiritual safe space. My job is to take away your safety blanket and teach you how to do this for real. Because spiritual mastery is about being able to live absolutely everything in harmony with life at all times, at every moment. And this is what we're practicing together. And this is also why, if you're new to this work, when you become part of this community, we emphasize exploration and really trying out what you think you know, to experiment. And that will be the greatest spiritual practice, to really try to figure out how do these things work? How do I transform for real? So instead of pulling away from life, we dive straight in. And then you begin to have true realizations. It's not an inner realization, it's a realization in life. And you get it, and you understand what to do and what to be. And then the divine essence wakes up. So it's fun, but it's not easy. Often the contrast can be staggering, because often what I teach is like, duh, that's you, I get it. Yeah, try to live it, bitch, right? It's that. But that's the fun part. That's also fun of being together with other people with that track record of lifetimes of spiritual studies coming together and trying to do it in real life, right? And then figuring out, we're all dumb, yep. But we got to start somewhere, right? And then apply everything we think we know and then get results. Because that is the true spiritual path. It's in the real world with others. And this is also where mantras come in very handy, because what they do, they are like living tuning forks. Think of your body and your brain and your body is basically just vibration. Information, different wavelengths vibrating, and that's basically you. So it's the information of what you are as consciousness in form. And that will just loop. How something appears as matter is that something will be looping. So it will be kind of repeating its own pattern. And when that happens, you get consistency, meaning that you look the same from second to second, right? It's the same. And it means that you are then locked into this matrix of information and vibration. And when you, as spiritual consciousness being projected through that, which is you being in incarnation, you will be kind of trapped into that matrix. And then spiritual awakening can't happen by itself. Because this is also what people find very frustrating. Well, if spiritual awakening is a thing, why doesn't it just happen by itself? Because what is happening by itself is repetition and biological evolution, which is very slow. How to move past the walls of your own mind, which is all your definitions, all your beliefs, what you have experienced so far in your level of consciousness. And that will be the externalization. So, when everything you vibrate, everything you do, everything you think and feel will be of the same cloth of consciousness, it will be more of the same. You need tools, and you need power tools. You need hand grenades. You need nuclear weaponry, right? And that's what I give you. So think of when, place, manifestation, form, all of that is determined by vibration. When your consciousness vibrates based on your exact point of evolution, that will determine what type of dimension, what type of universe, what type of galaxy, solar system, planet, life form, DNA, place, community, timeline, all of that until there is you. And that's what you will be vibrating. You can't escape it. The only way is to vibrate something else, because vibration is location. So when you use mantras, you will begin to vibrate differently, which means all of a sudden you will be somewhere else. It's not like this form that you, the person, will be transported. But remember, place is a perception. It's a rendering. It's an outer rendering of how you perceive through matter and space and time your own consciousness. So when that changes, your sense of dimension, where you are, natural laws, will change. In the beginning, very slightly. But it will make you move into a different type of consciousness that is not based on the self. Because if you can think that the self is the tuning fork representing your karma. The karma is also your exact point of evolution. So, what if you change that and there's a different tuning fork? Then your reality will change, both your inner and outer reality. Then, of course, the challenge is that your physical senses are trained to filter out whatever is not part of your already existing matrix of definitions. But over time, that will begin to melt and become more flexible. So, mantras will transport you in consciousness, in vibration. And that means that you'll be opened up to different forms of reality and insight. Sometimes it's simply a matter of you and your mind and your emotions getting a whole different angle on something, right? And all of a sudden in meditation, you get a different insight. Because you're not just looping and repeating anymore. And the sport of it all is how far away from your current position can you move? Because that will give you an entirely different set of perspectives, right? Meaning that you can observe yourself and your karma and your studies in a very different way. And that will begin to influence your brain, your cells, your nervous system, your behaviors in a very natural way. Because you as a human, as you know, you're completely controlled by your DNA, by your genes, by repetitive behavior, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that vehicle, the biological machine, is what it is. But it can still be influenced. So by using mantra, you are basically influencing also the biology in the brain of what you are as a person, and thereby modifying how your brain will process information, how you feel, how you think, how you behave, and why. It's very slight, but over time, it's not as subtle anymore. So, mantras are basically tuning forks. And when you then tune, you will become different. And also understand that your cells are kind of funny that way. Now, you as a biological reality, your cells will vibrate on a certain kind of hertz. And one can see this also through experiments. In clinical trials, when the human body and your cells are being exposed to a kind of vibrational information, it can be hertz, it can be like something, it can be radio waves, it can be whatever, that is more powerful than what is already in your body. Your cells will begin to try to tune themselves to that, because that is reality. Remember that evolution and survival is about the ability to adapt. So your cells will always try to adapt to whatever reality is. So when you are exposed to radiation, for instance, right, that is quite powerful. Your cells will say, oh, that's the strongest information. So I guess this is where we are now. So laws of evolution and survival then dictates that your cells will then try to start to vibrate that. And this, of course, is very harmful, because in this civilization we have created so many harmful things, and people get sick. So your cells will always try to tune themselves to whatever vibration, whatever presence of information dominates. So it also means that when you are using mantras, and you're using powerful mantras, and you're practicing, you are creating a presence in yourself representing higher vibration of spiritual laws or natural laws, and your cells will begin to adjust to them. So the spiritual journey is also a human one. It's a biological one. And our work has to go through all levels. But this is also part of it. The outer world today, for the most part, is a weird soup of harmful things. Humans enjoy harming themselves and others. And this is just part of where the human civilization is. So everything in this civilization vibrates in such a way that you are being pulled out of center. There is so much noise, and we all know it. We're distracted every second by something and everything, and it's never good. But your cells in your brain is telling you that you have to adapt to your surroundings, because that's how you survive. If you are then in a harmful environment, your cells will still try to adapt to that. So, throughout evolution, what we adapted to would be nature slowly changing. So that would be in harmony, right? That would be an increased ability to survive. What we're doing to ourselves as a civilization is the opposite, which means that we get out of balance physically, emotionally, mentally, and we can see it. But humans are not able to stop because our cells have to adapt and adjust. By using mantras, you are also creating that dominant presence of healing vibration that will also unlock your consciousness. And over time, that will become a lot stronger than any impulse or influences from the outside world. Because even your brain will go, all right, this is the outside world. I'm supposed to be tuned from the inside. When you do enough spiritual practice over time, your brain and your nervous system will actually understand this. So your cells will kind of like shift its attention from the outside world to the inner world. They say, oh, this is where we tune ourselves. And then you will achieve a level of harmony also biologically, mentally, emotionally. It will be a whole different starting point. And then you can enter the outside world without being distracted, without being pulled down, without getting emotionally, mentally unwell simply by interacting with the world, as most people are today. So understand that using mantras will also help you as a person. It will balance you. But the fun part is how mantras can help you transcend your human state. Because vibration is location. So, when you use different mantras, and think of different mantras as they will mirror specific principles, specific type of karma, specific areas. So it's not like, oh, this feels nice. They all mean specific things. And when I teach you the different mantras, I will also explain exactly what they do, what they address in you, how to practice, how it will affect your life, so you can study and play around with it and say, okay, when I'm tuned, to this key, this is the music. This is now where I should focus. And it's a lot more interesting. So then the specific karmic patterns will be addressed. There will be specific practices, specific ways of listening and looking at yourself and then figure things out. And then within different mantra, it will be a whole different angle. And it keeps your own spiritual studies fresh and interesting because it's not just the same. It changes all the time. And let's face it, humans today have TikTok brains, including you. So it's like, if I gave you a practice that like, do this for the rest of your life and we'll speak in your next lifetime, modern people can't do that. So it's easier to, go through a bowl of spiritual candy, like, oh, that's a nice piece. Ooh, that's fun, and do that. It's where we are, right? I often say that it was actually easier to teach humans to reach higher levels of consciousness a few hundred years ago than it is now. We're at a low point in human evolution because of everything humans are doing to themselves that are kind of lowering consciousness. All the distractions, all the imbalances, all that noise, making it impossible for humans to have consistent thoughts or emotions or a sense of presence. Most people today never experience presence. It's just noise. It's just pain, so they have to self-medicate. Right? So part of spiritual work today is we need to start by first removing the noise and learning how to not produce it. That in itself is difficult. Because once you're used to noise, silence is painful. And you see with a lot of young people today, they can't take silence. They have to play music. They have to do something because their system is so stressed that silence is painful. So you need practices and training and reflection and this and that in order to bring yourself to a point where you can even start. But working with mantras will assist you in tuning your body, tuning your brain, tuning your consciousness, opening yourself up, and moving to a state of connectedness. Because for as long as the self is the tuning fork, you will be suffering. There will be nothing but illusion. So with mantras, you can start to vibrate connectedness. You can begin to vibrate what is beyond the self. So you will be connected to states of consciousness beyond you, beyond your knowledge, beyond your current level of evolution. And that's how it happens. Just by being in connectedness with what is beyond you, that will begin to influence you. I call that the marinade, that will basically be marinating in consciousness and energy and information that is beyond you. And if you just stay there, you'll pick up some flavor, And that helps, because when you are exposed to something beyond your consciousness, you don't understand it. All you can do is let it affect you. This is also why we practice surrender and listening and try to be in an open state where we don't necessarily try to understand. So we try to learn to be true rather than seeking truth. Now, if you think of how consciousness works and how incarnations work, and why awakening is not something that is easily achieved. It's not taking a weekend course or something, ooh, I'm enlightened. That is just you feeling better. The process is very similar to what we can see in the human body. You go through millions and billions of lifetimes in different expressions, and not in a linear way. But when you look at the human body, we have a lot of cells. They all operate on their own, but it's only when they operate together that there is you. So if you have just a few of the cells operating, you're dead. If half of the cells are functioning, you're still dead. If 70%, you're still very dead. You need almost all of them activated. You need all these functions, organs, connections. And then gradually, you wake up. Then there is consciousness. It's only then. And for you to truly live and exist in reality, all of your cells need to be activated. They need to work in connectedness and in concert with each other so that you live. Spiritual awakening is the same thing. So the fact that you as one cell, one lifetime is activated, that is great, but then you have to do it again and again. Because each space, each level of consciousness requires awakening. So awakening is not something that happens once. It's the full activation of potential within the kind of pointer space, which kind of represents where you are. So enlightenment happens when all cells are activated. And it's the same thing. Until then, the cells have no idea. Just like the self, the individual, has no idea. So the cell can imagine what it's like to be a person. It's probably not what a cell can imagine. And it's the same thing with enlightenment. It can only happen once all of it is activated. Back to self-importance and lack of patience, and that we want everything to be instant. This is also why it's difficult for humans today to truly engage in true spiritual work, because we just want to, feel good or to tell ourselves a story about spiritual consciousness and not actually doing it. True spiritual work happens also when you realize that it's just about you. It's not something you have to share. It's not something you have to show anyone. It's not something you should try to use to position yourself or brag or try to kind of tell people, ooh, look at me, I'm so great. Self-importance gets in the way. But we have a tendency in the self, because we're so stressed out today, that we feel that we're drowning, that everything is so challenging, right? That's the stress. That's everything we're exposed to, and we're trying to adjust to it, and it just feels worse. Self-importance is a survival strategy for the self. So, well, at least I'm important, right? I can't do anything, but I'm important. And that can make you feel better about yourself in your life and say, look, nothing is working. I'm out of balance. Physically, emotionally, mentally, in my life, I can't do any, that. But I'm important. So often we turn to spiritual work because we feel that this can't be it. But then there's a very short way trying to figure out what is really going on here. To the self, recognize that, oh, self-importance, ooh, that's healing, that's soothing. And then we get stuck there because we don't have the patience, right? Because when we just want to feel good, we will go for whatever can give us that feeling as quick as possible. Just like when you're hungering hangover, McDonald's, right? It's that thing. We just want that instant, whatever it is. So, what we need to learn also is that when we work with mantras, true spiritual work, over time the self will heal. That's when you have the patience. That's when you get the stamina to go into the deeper work. You don't start there. So then you need discipline. So we also in this work emphasize daily spiritual practices, discipline. And yes, you have to force yourself. It doesn't matter if you like it or not important. You have to force yourself, because otherwise you will just be looping in your own pain. So by using mantras, you will be tuned. You as an instrument will slowly be tuned. And then you begin to feel a sense of harmony. You begin to feel a harmony in your flow. And then life is not that difficult. And you begin to see, oh, harmony is actually possible. It takes work. But if you're spiritual ambitious, you also need tools that work. And this is also what is so important with the mantras that I teach. Many of them come from traditions, some of them from this planet. But I also find that many of the mantras from traditions on this planet, they're done. They represent a consciousness that has led humanity here. Right? So that didn't go well. So it's also recognizing that, yeah, based on where we are, we also need mantras that can point you forward to where you are going, to where humanity is going, where it should be going. And that will come from other cultures and other life forms. Because, of course, there are many cultures and life forms that are far more advanced, and they have their spiritual traditions as well. So I introduce a lot of those too, but of course there are a few gems in human traditions as well. So I combine. And often what I will do, we have kind of laid out a lot of mantras. If you think like, ooh, how many mantras are, I know several thousand. So we can keep going for about like 800 years. So, welcome back next lifetime. So, but often in a cycle, I will have kind of laid them out and sometimes say, well, based on where you are in your process, all of you, say, oh, maybe that will work better. So I will also look at the collective consciousness and the process of how you're working individually and together. Say, okay, this which you knew better now, this is an interesting angle. So I do that too, right? So it's dynamic. So you are also, through your work and through how you are responding, right, also taking part in deciding which mantras I will give you next, right? Because the point is to meet you where you are. Right? If I made this perfect little, spiral, and then you're spiraling off somewhere, I have to introduce the next step where you are. Right? Because as long as we're going upwards and forwards, it's still fine. So that's part of the fun, right? For you to also be co-creational in your own consciousness and your own efforts and say, So I always try to introduce a mantra that will meet you exactly where the whole group is. But again, we can keep going forever. So, and also, why are all these mantras so secret? It's mainly because you do not give razor blades to babies. You can, but you're not a responsible adult. And most people have no idea what mantras can do, what they can, what doors they may open. Just like all power tools and all tools in general, they do what they do. And they may open certain kind of vibrations and process in you that you're not aware of. And maybe you will not see it or feel it, because your consciousness is too low. But it also creates an activation of karma that you're not connected to. And that will then start moving about, and you have no idea how to deal with it, and then it will just seep through. And you will experience life very difficult because you're not on that level. So as always, when it comes to spiritual tools, been very careful in introducing the right tools at the right moment based on where the student is. Right? So it's not, the point is not in itself good to keep things hidden. It's just like, if you have weapons at home and you have kids, they should be in a locked cabinet. And it's the same thing. It's the more you understand spiritually, the more your consciousness grows, the more you are responsible for everything you know and how to apply it correctly. Because it's not about you. Look at me when I can. It's using everything you know and trying to figure out how can I promote growth and healing in others. And then you understand, oh, right, this is not the right time for this, but this may be. Right? So many of you are doing this already. When you talk to people sometimes, you can just see that, yeah, they're not ready for this knowledge. I can see what they're going through. I can see where they will end up. But if I explain it to them, it will not help, right? Most of you have been in that situation. It's that. So, and then when you are in low consciousness, it may say, ooh, it's secret. Why can't I have it? But it will not help. Right? Again, when you look at kids, you can't give a power drill to a toddler. Like, it doesn't matter how wonderful or advanced the power drill is, he can't use it. Because what he will do is like put it in his mouth to see what it tastes like and then push stuff and then, it will injure himself. It's like that. So, understand that every level of consciousness is under administration. There are always adults present. And I said that just like when you look at a family, normally when you have several kids, the older kids will take care of the younger ones, right? And then you have the teenagers taking care of the the slightly older kids, and then you have the adults. And then you have the grandparents, keeping the adult in check. So that's how it is. And this goes on pretty much forever. And for each level, there is more wisdom, there is more insight. So it's always kind of distributed. It's always under administration. So nobody is in power, nobody decides. It's everyone just trying to use their wisdom and experience to promote all life that comes after them. It's an instinct. Just like hopefully when you see a child, you will immediately have an instinctual reaction that you want to protect, you want to help. Because that's what you do if you're somewhat balanced, right? So it's that. This is also why when you wake up, your only instinct is, how can I assist others? For real. And it's not about you. And the joy is to then assist in that growth and healing. So we are a big team also assisting you guys and promoting your awakening. But you need to be ambitious, because these are pro tools. And you'll get more out of them if you are spiritually adventurous and you've already kind of reached this point where you know you have to. Most people, again, who come to me, they express very clearly that they know they don't have a choice. They're past that point where they have a choice. It's like, the door has been opened, they've passed through, things have been activated, they know it. They are in the process of awakening and it can't stop, and they know they're willing to go through absolutely everything because they have to. So, and then you just want to figure out what works. And that's what I give you. And I train you like how to use the power tools correctly so you can get results instead of injury. Because that's also a big part of it. So it takes for you also to practice and to be disciplined and to kind of learn how to reach higher levels of consciousness. Do you guys have any questions? If you have any questions whatsoever, please ask, because this is your chance. If not, that's also okay.
Hey.
Hi.
I was just wondering, not that I have good discipline, but can good discipline be harmful also?
If discipline can be harmful?
Yes.
No.
Why not?
Why would it be harmful?
Because if you have all this discipline, like I'm supposed to do, if I just do 5-10 minutes with this every day and that, mm-hmm. And then you're exhausted, but you want to have good discipline, and then you keep going. Okay, I need to keep going, doing these things like.
Okay, right. Now, when we're talking about spiritual discipline, it's something else.
Okay.
It's basically doing what will heal you, what will expand you. It's going beyond your patterns. Ultimately, discipline is the ability to be and move in harmony with life, past your own patterns and behaviors. So when you force yourself to be in harmony, that will heal you. If you are forcing yourself to do even more stuff that the self comes up with, that's harmful. So we're not talking about just like forcing yourself to whatever. It's learning first what will bring you in harmony, what will bring you closer to truth, what will actually bring you to the center so you can heal and connect. And then you force yourself to do that over being in your own resistance and stress, right? Now, when we start our spiritual practices, the self will squirm, the ego will protest, our suffering will intensify, because the self and the body has absolutely no interest in spiritual awakening, because it does not belong to the body. It's not the person that wakes up. It's a spiritual being waking up from the person. So, the person will be interested in continuing its harmful practices and creating more suffering and a life in self-medication and hurt and all of that, then figuring out how to, just get by and do all of that. And then introducing practice, one will say, well, I don't have time for that because then I can't spend enough time hurting myself. And over time you get it. You say, well, this is insane. For instance, one thing that I always tell people when it comes to meditation, many people say, well, if I should get up in the morning, I don't get enough sleep and I'm so stressed. When you have clinical trials and studies, it shows that 1 hour of meditation equals 2 hours of sleep. So meditation is more efficient than sleeping. So if you need more sleep, well, the solution is meditate. It means that you get more out of your day. Right? When we are in harmony, because today, sleep doesn't necessarily help, because we are so stressed out, so distracted, so pulled in all directions, so full of noise, that the subconscious simply cannot harmonize you. Simply cannot, get you back to point zero before morning starts. This is why people today are hardly ever rested. You need to go deeper. Meditation is the only way. And then using mantras will bring you even deeper, faster. And then you will start looking at your life and say, what am I doing? I'm doing all of these things and I'm just creating noise. I'm harming myself. What am I doing and why? And then you will ask those types of questions. You will look at your life differently. You will begin to make different choices, better choices, healing choices. You will begin to build a life in a direction of balance and harmony. But in the beginning, yes, there is a lot of inner discussion, and yourself and your brain does say, I'm too busy trying to figure out how to not suffer. That's why we have to force ourselves. But it's also important then that we have practices, in this case mantras, that will in fact bring you to that point. Because nothing is more frustrating when people they connect to spiritual ambition, they want to figure this out. And then they engage in practices that simply don't work. Because they're forged out of someone's ego or beliefs or whatever it is. This is the difference often between what we see in kind of religions and cults and alternative stuff and traditions, the deeper traditions, because it's not about the person, it's about the tradition. Right? So it's never about the master. It's not a personality thing. It's about the practices and how they work and how everyone assists each other in getting results. So what I teach is how you can get results. Because, and this is the thing, humans want to do things right. This is why religions work. To survive, remember that humans used to live in small tribes. That's been the reality for most of the time. So learning how to do something and then doing it right, other people telling you you're doing it right, that will ensure survival, right? You're fishing the right way, you're using the tool the right way, and then you're very happy. So when it comes to spirituality, we've done the same thing. With religion, it's about, yes, you're doing it right. Good, and that's it. And then we get stuck. Because there's basically finding the right answers to the right questions, and it solidifies. In spiritual traditions, true spiritual traditions, and in spiritual work, it's the opposite. It's not about doing anything right. It's about exploring and figuring out what is. And in your dialogue with life, everything changes all the time, so there can't be anything right or wrong. And setting oneself free from the concept of right or wrong is setting oneself free from religious thinking. And this is why I teach principles. I give you tools, practices, angles, so you can experiment and explore, but also learn how to track your own results. Because to be free from religion and submission, submission comes when you want to do what is right. When someone is to tell you, yes, you're doing good, this is the right thing, that's religion, and then you have to submit. To set yourself free, you need to be able to see and understand your growth, understand your expansion, and be able to track your own development. You need to be able to explore and experiment and also understand, what are my results? Is this working? What do I need to change? How should I transform? And notice what over time actually brings you there. This is the difference between religion and spiritual tradition. It's all about applying tools, knowledge, wisdom, practices, and then it's about getting the results. It's never about the person. It's never about the master. It's never about personality. It's never about ego. It's about everyone working together to promote growth and love and healing. And then you figure out, because you also then learn how to observe yourself, how to track your growth or lack thereof, and understand what you need to apply, what you need to change. And that's freedom. And that is what I'm teaching. And students get results. They learn over time to see their own growth. They can measure it. And they can understand what they did, how they practice in order to get to that result. Because if I want anything for you, it's freedom. It's spiritual empowerment. It's that you grow into the authentic being that you are. And that you understand how you can lift yourself to higher consciousness by kind of learning how to do it for real. So, we're all about getting results. So it's not about you just doing something, having a practice, and then you're a good boy or a good girl. It's like, do you get results? And how do you know that you're getting results? What is happening? Because you need to learn about yourself and how you operate. The more you learn, the more you understand, the more freedom you will have, because then you understand how to do it. And you build and you build and you build and you build. In all traditions, in kind of all dimensions and life forms, this is what we do. It doesn't matter. At some point when you're past submission and religion, this is what you do. And most of you have been in traditions already, so you kind of know the drill. But still you have to learn to do it in this form, in this civilization. But then, supporting each other and having fun with studies and not taking it in a way too seriously. You can be extremely dedicated and ambitious, and at the same time, having a sense of humor about it. It can be a lot of fun too. Anyway, more questions?
Hi. Okay, so I have two questions. The first one is a little bit practical about the course.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how the form is like. Is it similar form to this, like it's the speech and then a little bit questions, or is it more interactive with you?
It's first I will normally teach what the mantra is about. I will explain the principles. I will explain the karmic patterns that mantra will activate. So you can kind of internalize and understand what is this about. And then you will learn the mantra and then we'll practice. And then after that, when you then reflect on the teaching through the practice of the mantra, then you may, experience some questions coming up. So then we have a Q&A after that. And then after 2 weeks, there is a workshop where one can then work on what has happened, how are we kind of journeying into this mantra and these kind of karmic patterns playing out, and how can we work with it to really get results. So it's that type of structure. So it's all about kind of giving you as much as possible, and then teaching the practice, and then assist you as much as possible in practicing.
Can I ask more?
Sure.
But I had popping up questions in this question.
Mm-hmm.
Is it okay? So for people who are actually here physical in
Yes.
the course,
Yes.
are we sitting in a circle, or is it like in chairs like this?
Yes.
Or
Just like this.
like this?
Yes.
So it's not like a circle on the floor?
No, because again, it's about your dialogue with the divine. It's not, we're still together, but it's still your journey.
But we sing together?
We sing together, yes. But it's also, often when we're in this circle, it has a tendency to become ritualistic.
And that's not good?
No,
Okay. Why?
because it caters to a very primitive low consciousness. This is not about the biological life form. So all that belongs to the genetic inheritance. This is about reaching far beyond that. And what may take time is to understand that what I'm teaching is on a very different level, because why would you understand it? It takes time. But this is on a different level, and it requires both a different approach. And it requires that you reinvent absolutely everything you think you know, because everything you think you know only brought you this far. And it's still about, if you want to go beyond those walls for real, instead of making the walls look prettier, it takes something else. Again, this is why most people, when they try to do that, they sit in ashram for their entire life, just for the hope of maybe being able to drill a hole. It's not easy. It's not something one can just do because one feels like it. And understand that most of the things humans do are just about making oneself feel better and create identity that we're spiritual, and then do stuff to create more of that. It's okay, but it's not awakening. So we're doing it the hardcore way, meaning that you will get results that are irreversible, and you will wake up. So what we also are really focused on is for everyone to understand that each journey is unique. That your journey is uniquely yours. And we have to learn to stop copying and having that kind of togetherness that is more a matter of trying to find comfort in others because we're not truly present. Being truly present to ourselves today is very difficult. So we focus on each individual taking full responsibility for one's own journey and awakening and spirituality, and learn what does that even mean today. So I said we all walk our own unique paths, but we can still do that together. Right? It's just, if you think of a race where everyone's driving their own car, they're still driving their own car, but we can still, be in the sport together and share best practices and insights but with the complete and utter respect for the integrity of each individual's spiritual journey, right? But then back to getting results. So one has to be ambitious, one has to set goals, and then figure out, am I actually getting there? And then understand that when you set a goal, you set it from a low consciousness, but it will start moving you, and then to bring you there, that goal has to dissolve. You have to reinvent yourself. Everything will have to be broken down and taken away from you, and then you will have to reinvent it in concert with life. So the goal will then become something very different, and you also need to learn how to track that. Right? So it's a very different process, and why it takes discipline and dedication. But you will get irreversible results.
Mine quick. From Germany, if one is in both the IKYA Mantra and the IKYA crystal courses, how do they weave together?
Now, we have two kind of separate courses that are basically two parts of the same. When we study mantras, it's mostly about tuning our own instrument, right? And getting closer to what kind of we are in our own dialogue with life, with the divine, with God, or whatever we want to call it. And be more, place more attention on our own transformations. The other course, which we call the crystal course, which is basically studying spiritual principles through also the presence of crystals, and their job is to basically also vibrate. So you'll get an external organ, as we say, it will carry certain principles. So we then study those. So it will be more about studying the universe, in a way, while the mantra course is more about studying yourself as an instrument. So they have the micro and macro perspectives. They will, of course, blend together, so it's not an absolute wall, but they amplify each other. So we often say that it's beneficial if one has the opportunity to take part in both.
Hi, I'm Anna. Thank you so much for the great presentation. I'm curious about your opinion in regards to the journey, because it's not a destination. You get enlightened and that's it. You reach a location, right? How do you make sure that throughout this progress and growing your being, you still remain in the idea that I am enough and I'm having fun, and what I do is for my own being and for the others' good, for the society being, but it's not more, it's coming from a place of I'm enjoying. I do this with joy rather than, I have to reach that point and I want to get results. So I'm curious to understand your opinion.
I think it's a great question, and I can guarantee you that you will swing between the extremes. Just like if you also look at someone studying something or getting good at something, let's take a musician, right? It swings from like, this is the most fun thing ever. So I hate this, I want to burn my instrument, right? I hate myself, I hate everyone. I hate my teacher, I love my teacher, this is great. Like, that's how it is, because when you activate different parts of your own karma, you will feel and think you will become that person. And then the dialogue with life will be from there. And remember that our karma is basically our resistance, right? And then also the potential. So life is trying to show us the potential, and then the reason why we don't have that insight already, that's the resistance. And then the dialogue will be there. And then it's the next thing, and this and that. So we will swing back and forth and up and down. But the thing is also that we are quite I was like focused on spiritual work being fun. Because to me, the reason why people take spirituality too seriously is because of self-importance. And self-importance comes from pain. Right? As I said, when we suffer, at least we want to be important. It's a way to soothe the low self-esteem that comes from when we're in a lot of stress. It's a sign that I'm not doing it right. I can't cope. So we have a lot of stories like that. And the way the self can live with itself is just, okay, at least I'm important. I'm more important than you. And then everything becomes so serious, right? Because then we want to be respected, want to be seen, we want confirmation, and we blame the world for everything. So then we need to control everything. And then, of course, spiritual studies become so important because we're in pain, right? And when we figure out that we can actually move out of suffering, we can see that's an illusion. I can heal, right? And we learn to look at ourselves. And when we do, we laugh because we can see the absurdity of the horizontal, which is the incarnated, manifested realities. We can see it. We can look at what humans are doing. It's like, what are we doing? You know, and we can have fun with it. We can have fun with our own pains. We can have fun with all the weird stuff we're doing, because this is also how we can have the courage to look at things, right? A deeply rooted resistance and karma. When we laugh at it, we can see this is quirky, right? It's not as dangerous, right? Once we take things seriously and we are full of fear, we're afraid of our own karma because we think, oh, this will be terrible, I will be consumed, right? Once we learn that, no, we can just play around with it. We can change it. Life will help us, and we have the right tools. It's not as dangerous, right? So, but of course, like any student will tell you that it goes up and down and here and there. That's part of the journey. So if we think that I should always be happy, you will not be. And also how you think of your own process, how you understand yourself and reality and life and a journey, that will change many times, right? People come to me and they say, often the conversation is every year like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand. Okay, now this is a new start for me. Now I really get what this is about. And then they come back next year and say the same thing. And when I've done that 10 times, they just shut the fuck up because they realize that this will simply not stop. I will reinvent everything again and again and again and again. So instead of saying, now I get it, they're going to say, oh, this is yet another step and there is more to come. So you relax about your own definitions and you don't take them seriously, which means you can go into something and say, well, this is interesting, but you don't attach yourself to it. You stop attaching, which is the best way of reaching attachment. It's not just letting go. It's like stop attaching yourself in the first place. So you'll learn gradually to move in that direction, and that's why it becomes more fun. Is that we become more relaxed, more authentic, more truthful. And we're also more realistic about what human life is. And we stop taking it so seriously, right? So it becomes more fun, but don't expect it to be that you will have a kind of balanced, consistent mood. You will not. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. So I understand that the mantras are quite fun in the end.
Yes, I think most students, I think, will say that working with mantras are fun because they get to experience themselves in kind of different modalities, because each mantra will kind of tune you into a version of yourself, and you will experience different energies, and it's like having new glasses, right? So it means that your subconscious and your mind will focus on different things based on the vibration, right? And it's so interesting to go from one mantra to another, just like from one stone to another. You can feel that your life is changing. That's the kind of the whole setup is moving around, just like in the theater, like between scenes. They move the props around then, light, and it's kind of like that. And learning that life is flexible, it's not consistent and permanent, and experiencing that, oh, when I change, move into a different modality, my life also reflects that. It also means that the brain understands that, oh, this is not permanent. It means whatever I feel, it will change. Whatever I think I'm attached to, it will change, right? So we get more lighthearted because of it.
So my question is it possible if you have a diagram with one axis is results and the other axis is how many times you sing the mantra, is it possible to draw a graph? Is it a linear relationship, exponential relationship,
Right.
or?
I think people tried that with Ave Maria. And it's that. So no, because it's about what you are vibrating. So basically, it would be like, how often are you actively internalizing everything life is showing you? Because doing something as a practice in itself will not change anything if you do it mechanically. It's when you do a practice and you become it, when you tune in and you let it transform you, right? This is also why I say, like, prayer is excellent. But when people use prayer to basically tell God what to do, and I want this thing, please help me get what I want, that does not change consciousness at all. That's basically trying to order the universe around so that where you are can be more comfortable so you don't have to change. While prayer that actually works is the opposite, is basically asking to be shown what I need to change, right? To be in a state of gratitude, to be in a state of love, and to be asked, that we ask for guidance, and to be shown, and be in a state of humility and always like, I know I have to change, but show me how. Like, show me what I need to kind of like journey into, how to deal with things so I can grow and be in service. That's a whole different way of praying, and it's the same thing with every form of practice. When it becomes mechanical, it does nothing. So it's using each practice with absolute presence as much as we can, being in the heart, right? Understanding that these are things I do so that I can change and become more alive and peel away what is untrue, peel away what is not authentic. So what is actually there may vibrate, and by using the practices, it vibrates truth. So it's easier for me to peel away my own illusions. But doing something mechanically doesn't work. But that being said, when it comes to deep meditation, for instance, definitely. So that's a practice when you do it for real. So the more you go into deep meditation, the more your brain will physically change. It's measurable with brain scans, right? But also your consciousness. And we all know, for instance, those of you who've gone to meditation retreats, after a few days, you notice that your whole thought process changes, your emotion changes. Even you can feel your body and how you are in the world changes. And then you go back to your life and then poop, but still. So when we are in our practices, they will have long-term effects. So the more we do them, the more we transform. So what I teach over time is giving you so many angles, so many tools, so many everything, so that your entire life can be one continuous practice. So you will remind yourself every moment, this is what's going on. This is how I can tune in. This is how I can open up. Remember that your brain operates on genetic patterns so that you can be completely asleep spiritually and you can go around in life and survive, right? So, and your brain prefers that. So it's a matter of having practices to replace those programs, one by one. And that takes you becoming aware, practicing, repeating, tuning in, becoming someone else in that moment, or in that type of moment. And then you do the next one, and then you practice, and then, it's a continuous thing. But what happens over time is that when you move around in life, it does not distract you. You're pulled into awareness. You're pulled into love. You're pulled into co-creation and sharing and awareness, and you can feel it. So the more you interact with life, the more flow there is. You can see it, and you connect with purpose. So in whatever situation you're in, their instinct is, how can I promote love in this person? You understand that what's going on is not what's going on. You see that there is a spiritual plan and you're part of it. And then you try to execute that while also dealing with whatever business you've got. But that becomes a lived reality. And this is also why spiritual practices are so important, is bringing ourselves to the point where this is not what's going on anymore. It's that other thing, which is the spiritual journey and everyone taking part in it, while you are doing whatever you can to play your part and to stimulate, nurture, and bring love, and also be a tuning fork for others. And then it becomes something you never move out of. You're aware of it all the time. And then you see how the divine communicates through everything. You can see how everything is connected, and it's more fun. But then when the brain is trained to deal with that reality, and the brain has modified itself, the brain sees that as the biological reality. You deal with the genetic reality too, but the brain will have changed and built kind of structures and connections to keep you in that kind of level too. And then you basically operate in both. So to me, this is when I look at people who have had kind of successful spiritual practices over time, if they've done it right, I can see those changes in the brain, and I can see that kind of like double reality thing going on. So that to me is a goal for all of you when it comes to spiritual practices, for them to become so consistent that the brain enters this as a permanent state, and it basically means that who you are in deep meditation and what you experience in deep meditation is also what you experience when you go to the supermarket. You never leave that deep meditation. And yes, that takes more than a few Ave Marias. It takes a lot of practice and reminding ourselves. But this is what I teach. Over time, you will get there.
Okay, back online. With regard to practicing the mantras, could you comment on the difference between singing mantras with open or closed eyes? And this is actually with meditation in general.
Yes. Now, I'm all for exploring and experimenting. So do both, right? Sing out loud, sing quietly with your eyes open, eyes closed, just to see what happens, because we need to ask questions. We will not explore unless we want to figure out what's going on. We need to be curious, right? So we need to first be in a state where we want to listen. And when we want to go past the self, and then we explore, and then we feel, use all our senses and more, and just try what is going on. Because it's not about finding the right answer. It's about being in that dialogue and understand, oh, when I do this, this happens. When I do that, okay. Because what we learn through our practices over time is that we figure out how to be in that channel, how to be in that center. And then we figure out, oh, if I do this, I have that thought, and then I feel that way and that energy. And we figure out those pathways in ourselves. And that takes for us to experiment and to be free, because each pathway that we establish will be based on who we are, our biology, our genetics, but also our level of consciousness and evolution. To me, as I always say, meditation is the state, it's not the technique. And it's therefore also recognizing over time, what is the state of meditation? And then how do I get there? And I said, whatever works. And then I teach you whatever works, and for you to kind of like play around with it and get to understand yourself as an instrument. Because this is really what it is about. Right? So then try everything, but do it with holiness. Do it with love and do it with dedication. So we're not doing it from the self that, well, I'm going to see what's happening. Try to move past that and be in a state of like holy connection, and then try to explore.
Okay, so when I sing the mantras alone, I tend to get this very calm or heaviness in my body. But what I have started to recognize is, because I'm very lucky, I have a community that I can sing the mantras with. I have a co-worker, my husband, and I recognize that when I sing together with them, different emotions comes up, like tears or laugh, or I can even lose my voice. And I also get a lot of images, and kind of starts to play almost like a movie in my brain when I sing together with others, and they have maybe different tones. So I just want you to elaborate on what's actually going on.
Now, this is also based on how we function, because each person is different. Now, when it comes to our biology, remember that survival depends on other people. So we have this thing in our brain, when we hear something from other people, it's more true than if we say it ourselves. So, even when it comes to you talking out loud, is more convincing to your brain than if you think it. This is why affirmations are more powerful than a thought. More powerful than that is someone else saying it to you. Because if someone tells you who you are, that can stay with you. Right? You can tell yourself something again and again and again and again and again. If someone else says the same thing, you will believe it. Even if it's the most horrible thing, you will believe it, because you're genetically programmed to become what other people tell you that you are, because that is who they want you to be and need you to be. And by adjusting to that, your chance of survival will increase, right? So for most people, then exchanging and also listening to other people sing a mantra will have that effect. It becomes even more true. Because when we're not used to mantras, and when we have a lot of self-doubt, and most people do, we can also have the subconscious thought, am I doing it right? Oh, I can't feel anything. When we're with someone else, well, they are doing it, so it must be true. It must work. And then we allow ourselves to let it affect us. So it's often easier when it comes to spiritual practices, when we do it with other people, it will have this amplifying effect. So it's not just because there are more people, but it's also your biology allowing the process more because other people are doing it, so it must be true. Over time, like, people are different. Some people can feel it more strongly when they're by themselves because they're used to, nobody's going to tell me anything, right? So, but that's okay too. But we just need to work with what we've got, right? Some people feel a stronger connection when they're by themselves, and they feel other people are just in my way, right? And some people feel that everything is amplified when they practice with others. Do everything, right? And explore. And also, for instance, when you feel that it's not as strong when you do it by yourself, well, why? Try to figure out, like, what can I do? How am I blocking myself from that kind of full immersive experience? Because it's me. And just play with it. Again, don't take it too seriously. Play around with it. Understand that the tool is working, but you're not working. And then you can experiment to figure out, like, how can I make this work? But this is also the strength of being in a community and working together with everyone having the intention of assisting each other in unfoldment. Because it means that we can amplify and mirror and support and nurture, and it's so important. Because also remember that through these teachings, your ego will be triggered, right? The self will be triggered, your stories, your sense of reality. And then the ego will try to take control. And then it's wonderful to have people around you that can just mirror, so you can understand where you are in your own process. So it's both more fun and interesting, but as a try to explore yourself as an instrument in both what blocks you, what stimulates you, and in what way, because it's part of you getting to know yourself as an instrument on your own spiritual journey.
Okay. I think it was been very nice to have a little taste this evening here and now with a mantra. So we can feel and do it together.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, the mantra we're going to sing tonight is an old mantra that has been part of many traditions. So this is like one of the greatest hits. And it's a wonderful mantra that also opens the heart. It's written H-U. It's pronounced Hugh. So think of the name Hugh Hefner without the Hefner part, but just Hugh, right? And what it vibrates is connectedness to the divine through love. And not the mind, because it vibrates that it's not about your head, it's not about the mind, it's not about what you know. It's simply being in connectedness with divine love. So, when we sing this, you can sing it in whatever way you want. So we get a kind of continuous sound, different notes, different ways to sing it, but sing it from the heart. Try to sing it with love. And again, just follow your own breath. It's not like we all have to start and stop at the same time. Just try to make it a continuous sound where you try to be in a state of love and try to express that love to life. So try to also be in a state of gratitude and love for all of this to exist, because you didn't make it, right? You exist in a universe that is a huge co-creation. It takes everyone and everything. So try to connect with that love and that sharing and connectedness. You can also try to visualize, if you want, the letters H and U, and just try to look at that at the same time. But try to again, sing it with the heart, and with that kind of soft, kind of humble approach. And then it will gradually feel that it will begin to open you. So now just close your eyes and just breathe deeply a few times and center yourself. And as you do, focus on your heart. And you may start seeing your spiritual heart as a ball of golden light. And try to sense that love that is warm and clear. And try to see this golden white light and let your heart pulsate. Try to feel that it is expanding and connecting. And where you realize that all of existence is love. And now we sing together. Just listen to the love. Just open your heart and everything you are. And just rest in knowing that love is a natural state. When we let go of everything, only love remains. So the more we relax, the more we become authentic, and the more love there is. So just rest in this for a couple of minutes. You may open your eyes. So as you can feel, mantra works as a tuning fork, and thereby kind of bringing you in harmony and opening you up to that flow and that kind of like frequency of flow that it represents. When it comes to, because like some people are wondering when they're studying with mantras, and they are in the family, how do they do that? They have kids and partners and all of that. I just like, just don't necessarily stand in the middle of the living room. Do it by yourself. But it's also okay that of course, family members can hear you or whatever, because they will be affected by it anyway. It's just, and that's a good thing, right? But it's not to kind of share it with others, because it's your journey. But of course, with kids and everyone in your space, they will be affected by it. So that's okay, but also try to just respect that you are the one studying and not everyone else. And also, often it's an opportunity to experiment more with singing it silently. It is interesting the difference between singing it silently and out loud. And just, there are always different opportunities. But no matter how we do it, we still connect and we'll still kind of get deeper. And mantras are so efficient. As you can feel that the energy can transformed and you transformed almost immediately. It's wonderful. So this is what we're also offering through these studies. It's for you then to learn how to vibrate beyond you, beyond your kind of level of evolution, enter spaces that are more advanced and let that space flow through you like you're experiencing now. Because this is a higher level of consciousness now flowing into you, because you're drilling a hole in the wall. And then whatever is out there will start to flow in, right? And it's very simple. And it works. So back to as we talked about, discipline, repetition, to meditate every day and to use the mantras every day. As I say, it's very smart. I always advise people to start the day with mantras meditation, because I say a musician, a violinist will hopefully tune their instrument before playing. There's no point in first having a concert and then tuning the instrument, just creating a lot of agony for everyone. So, and this is often what we do as humans. We start the day being out of balance, and then we'll behave out of balance, and then we'll react to everything, and then this is what people do. Noise. So when we start the day by tuning our instrument for real, and then we go out into the world and interact with our own karma from a place of higher balance. That's how you're able to heal karma faster. Because when you start the day by being out of balance, you react so much more. You will be triggered more. You will be saying things that are not, the most productive and behaving in a way. It's not smart. And yet, this is what most people do. But by tuning our instrument first and trying to carry that energy with us, we will express and behave in a way that may promote healing and growth around us. And instead of then repeating karmic patterns, we may dissolve them. Because in the higher consciousness, we may be able to say, oh, right, I can do it this way. Or, oh, maybe I shouldn't be saying that thing. Maybe I should actually focus on something else. And then we're able to kind of move past what we have been repeating. And it's a fascinating process. But it's just like a musician for the first time experiencing, it sounds better when I'm tuned. Right? You will sound better when you're tuned. People will experience you better when you're tuned, because it comes from a place of harmony, and it's that simple. This is why mantras have been used in all cultures, at all times, all of this planet, and everywhere else. Everywhere else. Because they are kind of the primary spiritual practice in all cultures. They work. Again, the mantras I give you will be ones that point forward, not just in your process, but also where the consciousness is heading, where this planet is heading. So it's a lot more interesting. So you will be also kind of plowing the way for other people by also then working with energies that are pointing in a certain direction also for the planet, right? So that's also part of the work. Being someone who then becomes part of a collective tuning fork, also assisting the planet in a certain direction, because we need it. Do we have another question?
We had a good question online. If you don't experience anything in the beginning when working with mantras, are they still working?
Yes. It's just a matter of, remember that our whole brain and nervous system, number one, most people are just full of stress and shame, right? And that takes all the bandwidth. So of course, and the brain, as I said, when your cells are used to trying to adapt to the outer world, it's not listening inwardly. So your brain may be just filtering out everything else, because remember that the way your reality is consistent is that your brain and your mind is filtering out more than 99.99% of everything. Okay? So what you take in will be consistent with what is already established. So it may take time to understand, what am I listening to? Like, how does it feel? And often when we begin a spiritual practice and we're not used to sensing it, and when we begin to understand, oh, it's that, I didn't know it was that thing, because it's still part of us, but the brain can, so we're not listening, but it's still there. But the brain just says, it's just, it's part of the scenery. It's not important. So it will be there, although it's still filtered out. But over time, there is a recognition that, oh, it's that. And then we can kind of understand that and get a little drop of that, let me amplify it. So we all figure it out. But we must also be patient with ourselves and understand that our bodies and brains and nervous system today are so stressed and will be tuned to much of the noise, right? So when we're not experiencing anything, just be patient, just continue, and just use your imagination. Using your imagination and fantasizing, and just playing around, well, if I were to feel anything, what would that be? This is also, when I teach, I give you a lot of information. So you can at least begin by feeling and sensing and reflecting on the teachings, because that will also tune you in. Right? So you will feel and sense something, and you build from there, and over time, you'll get it, because you are the instrument. So you'll get it.
I just wanted to share, after being your student for 24 years, the one thing I appreciate most is being able to become mature and to understand everything, how things work, how things manifest, and not be that influenced by the collective. Because when I grew up, I was feeling like I was trapped in my body. And I felt that everybody was like trapped in their patterns, and I hated not being free. So what you have been teaching me, and the sound, vibration is everything. Understanding that, we understand how everything is built, and we can study everything. Like I'm studying now how my brain is influenced to buy things, because the collective mind wants me to buy things. So I work now how can I be free from that? So I can take all practical things in my life and I can change them. I can reinvent everything. I'm so free. And of course, it's been hard. It's hard all the time, but I'm not dependent on how I feel anymore.
Right.
I don't care about how I feel, if I'm happy or not. I just do what I do, and I know I'm free. So I get over this, I get over this, I learn something new. So this freedom is fantastic. So I just want to recommend the core class.
Thank you, but it's an important point that, you know, and the freedom comes by doing the work, by experimenting and not sitting there as a victim, because today's freedom is freedom from, right? We just want it to end. That's why we self-medicate, because we want freedom from, and we just try to run away. Well, the only form of freedom that truly exists is mastery. So it's like, yeah, you exist in this reality, and you need to learn how to master it. That's when you get freedom. Because then, you know, as Lynetta said, you can change things. Whenever there's something you are reacting to, you say, well, then there's a learning potential here. Then let's look at that and change it and see what happens. And you also understand how to do it, right? So life becomes fun and interesting even when it's painful, right? Because you just, well, that's an interesting thing. What can we do with that? What is life trying to show me now? And you know that whatever you do with it, well, you will learn something, you know, you will heal something. And it's just so interesting. You can learn to be in complete, a complete kind of co-creative state with your own life. Grow out of every form of victimization, every excuse, every justification, because those are just holding you back, right? It means that you're passive and you believe that the world is doing things to you, and you need to learn that now you're doing things to life. That's the dialogue. You are doing things and life is responding. So when we learn to be an intelligent participant, it's just fun and interesting, and we will feel so free.
I would also like to share something with you. I have a son, he's 16, and he's with me now. We're traveling, he's going in online school. And he used to have really a tough time, and he was like kind of being a little bit depressive. And now we're here for 6 weeks, and he has like said to me, Mama, I'm so happy, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. So it's really interesting to observe him since we're here in Norway and here with IKYA for the last 6 weeks, how he has changed his mood and how he has changed his view of life. And I've never seen that on him. And it's so fascinating to observe that, how he changes. So you said it has effect on the family, and I sense it very clearly with my son. And it's really, it touches me so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. But this is also very important, because remember that when we're trying to figure things out, and we are in a state of stress and imbalances, it means that we are full of misunderstandings. And then we're trying to heal. Then we're trying to understand. And it's impossible, right? We can only understand once we, in a way, have the facts, once we have the faculties, once we understand what we're dealing with. And when we are all kind of systemically out of balance, we can't do it. So this is also being in my space means that you will gradually harmonize, and people around you will gradually harmonize. Meaning that instead of everything being a mystery and everything just like happening in ways we don't want to, one will start to understand that life is an organism. It's moving and we can move with it in harmony, and then good things happen. Life wants us to succeed. Life wants us not to be like childishly happy, but a happiness that comes from understanding that I'm in harmony. So by being in my space and studying with me, gradually you will be restored to a natural state. And then it's using that to study for real, because normally when someone tries to move into spiritual work, all they can do is try to move away and peel off their own misunderstandings. But because of the world today and their body and mind trying to adjust to the insanity of the world, they will just produce more imbalances and more misunderstandings. So their spiritual insights will just be bullshit, and there's no way out of it. So also understand that sitting with me is entering a space where you will gradually be restored, where you will be in a natural balance, so you can then begin to study life for what it is, instead of experiencing that you're thinking and feeling and behaving something and then life is something else, and what is it? You will be in a better starting point, and then for you to kind of spread that. Harmony is much stronger than imbalances. So when you reach more harmony in yourself, that will begin to kind of permeate also through your system and your life, and it will begin to affect people. So when you study with me, and also with the crystals and the mantras and all of that, you will start seeing that it will spread. All life seeks balance. All life seeks harmony, because it's a starting point. We can't do anything before we are in harmony, because then we're not present. We're in our own bubble of pain. Right? So that is the kind of the first step into spiritual work, is moving or kind of getting yourself to that point. That also takes work. It takes a lot of cleansing, but you're in a space that will assist you, and then it will begin to spread.
Yes, I was having a conversation yesterday about mantras, and then someone asked me, what is my mantra? And so I explained it to my best ability from experiencing and mental concepts of it. And there is, this question is circling in my mind still, so that's why I want to bring it up. Maybe you can elaborate on it.
Okay.
Can I just
yes.
say...
now,
yeah.
Mantras are actually not just the word. It is where it is coming from and what it represents. So think of it as, if you have a key, well, a key is a key, right? Worthless, it's just a key. But it's the door that it opens. And the purpose of the key is to open that door and what's inside that door. So, think of when you have higher beings representing a certain kind of vibration and concept, and the mantra connects you to that space, that consciousness. It's not just the word in itself, but it's what it represents, where it's coming from, who's behind it, who you will be connecting to, what assistance, what kind of laws of nature will be activated. So it's not just like a word and the sound of the word, because that's just one part of it. It's what's behind it, right? So it's almost like, you know, Batman signal as well, right? It's that. Spiritual mantras will carry a level of connectedness beyond the sound of the word. This is when people try to make up mantras, they really don't work. They have to come from somewhere. So all these mantras are coming from established traditions in different places. So when you sing it, you'll become part of that consciousness. You will be connected to the space and the experiments and also the experience and the beings and everything that has been done through this mantra. That will become part of the energy and the space that you will connect to. So it's not just the word in and of itself. Because every word has vibration, so you can just try to sing any word and see what happens. It will not have that effect. So it's what it represents as, in a way, a code that will tune you in. And that's really the purpose of it. Again, the fun thing is that each mantra comes from kind of specific reality, can be specific traditions, also carrying specific energy and vibration, and that will become part of what you tune into. So it's a lot of fun, right? So it's not just the word, it's everything behind it.
I have a question about love and boundaries. And sometimes I want to help people, but I'm a bit afraid that I come the middle of their karma or trying to like save them from a situation, but I'm actually making it worse by helping. So where's the balance?
Well, stop helping people. Because if you understand that whenever something is happening with someone, right, it's a manifestation and mirror of their karma and what they're studying. And we need to go through what we need to go through, right? We cannot save someone from their karma, because the purpose of karma is for someone to remove what is stopping them from higher insight and their own evolution. So what we do is then basically taking away their school textbooks. And everybody's happy because it was such a, difficult textbook. But they don't learn. So we should never help. Because we're doing it from the perspective of experiencing emotional pain by seeing someone going through something. That's narcissistic. Then it's about you trying to alleviate your emotional pain by forcing someone else to not go through what they need to go through to learn. Right? So we need to learn to stop helping. I often say, well, we may assist. Assisting means a being of service so that someone may perform better. Right? That's different. So instead of helping, which is like trying to take away or fix things, assisting as well, keep on doing what you're doing. How may I assist you in getting better results? And that's a different approach. Spiritually, we never help. We only assist. And therefore, we let people be, but at the same time we say, how can we assist in someone getting better results? By interacting with their karma, but maybe also seeing the potential instead of just seeing their own reaction and resistance. Like, what is to be learned? What is to be gained? Where are you kind of growing? Why is life showing this to you? What do you have to change in your behavior, in your ways? So it's that. So the boundary, I would say, whenever we express or do things towards others, coming from our own needs, that's the boundary. So when we have an emotional reaction and we act on it, we're overstepping, because that's not divine intervention. It's an overreach. You're trying to force the world into becoming what you think is pleasant. Working with our own karma is never pleasant. But it's basically, if you go to the gym and you see all these people lifting weights, and stop, it's painful. Why are you doing that to yourself? Have some cookies, right? It's not why they're there. And we will always interpret what is happening to others based on our own emotional story. That's why we feel pain. But it's none of our business. Spiritually, we always zoom out. And we can see why things are happening and why it's necessary. So when something is happening, it's because it's absolutely necessary for that individual growth. And we start out with a thought, this is the most perfect thing that could ever happen because, and then we finish that sentence. Only then can we assist. So whenever we look at something and we force ourselves through that sentence, and then we'll look at it again, because we have to see it first. Otherwise, we're trying to manipulate it to fit our own sense of the world. and how we want it to be. And therefore we feel good, because when we're able to force the world to become what we want it to be, we will get released reward chemicals, because it means that, yeah, you can survive. You're in control. You're that bitch, you know, and it feels good. Spiritually, though, it's extremely destructive. So rule kind of number one is like, let everyone be. Everyone's spiritually competent, even though we're not competent as humans. But understanding that that journey is holy. It doesn't need for you to help anyone. And often when we want to help people, it's because we're not doing the job ourselves. We're using others as proxies for our own feelings, because we're not healing, we're not doing the work. And then it feels better to help someone else, because then we can create the illusion that I'm doing something important. So we grow out of all of that, and we zoom out. You say, this is the most perfect thing that could happen because. And then we see it, and then we figure, how can we assist? How can we assist someone in reaching the goal they set out to reach through living through this? And then we just have to explore. But then, over time, we see, there was a plan. And we say, this was absolutely necessary. So we grow into it. And then we can surgically place ourselves, right? So we can see what's going on, and we know, okay, this is what life needs now. This is how I can amplify it. And then we do that. But if we want to learn, if we want a child to learn how to bike, we cannot hold on to it, because it's, well, they're in balance then. Well, you have to kind of, you have to do that. You support, but they still have to find balance. Helping is, we hold on because they're sitting on the bike. Well, they have no balance, right? So we figure out how to kind of figure out that kind of balancing point in what we do and what we are not doing, right? But when we zoom out and we learn that there is not only a plan, it's the plan. And whatever happens is because it's perfect and necessary. And that is our understanding. We will approach it very differently. And then we will heal.
This is probably a stupid follow-up question of this topic. So the difference between helping and assisting, is it okay to initiate and to ask someone, can I assist you? Or is that also crossing the boundary?
Now, let's just say it depends where you are doing it from. Because if you're doing it from higher consciousness, you're doing it to assist nature. You're doing it as an extension of nature's presence. When you do it because you are reacting to what you're seeing, you're doing it from your own ego and because you don't want the world to be that way. And it's learning to never do that. When we do it from ourselves, we are actually creating more noise. We're bringing people out of their intense studies. When we then zoom out and we understand, this is, they're studying now, they're learning something, what is it? And then you can ask, because then you're vibrating something different. You're not, because you may call it assistance, but you will still try to help. So, right, it's always, where are we? What is the intention? What consciousness are we in? Are we in service? Or are we simply trying to control the world? Right? We need to check ourselves every moment, every day. And over time we learn that the first instinct, whenever we feel anything, we check ourselves. And we try our best to be in alignment with nature and see what does life want to be expressed here and how can I be a vehicle for that. It's never about what we feel, what we think, what we believe, our sense of the world, because we know that's an illusion anyway. So it's moving in that direction. But it's a natural instinct to want to help. But we must also understand that it's manipulation, it's survival, and it's not what will bring anyone to true healing or awakening. There are better ways. Because it's not about doing nothing. It's actually about understanding how to promote growth and healing for real, and not take away the textbooks or, convincing people at the gym to eat chocolate instead, right? So it's just that. Good. Now, I think this is more than enough for today, but hopefully we've been able to show also that this is fun, right? It's about your journey, your exploration. And that studying with me is about giving you everything you need to do that, and for you to be spiritually ambitious and adventurous and connect with what you are, what your journey can be, and understand that you don't have to take the default version. That's the version other people gave you, right? When you were born in your family, they just give you the default version because that's what they can do. It's for you to take yourself out of the packaging and start living as you, not just as you as a person, but as a spiritual being, and understand that you have so much more inside you. You have all potentials, all opportunities, but your culture teaches you nothing. Your spiritual tradition, for the most part, your religions, teach you nothing. So if you want to activate, if you want to study for real and get results, right, and you want to get on that track and have fun with it, then welcome. And hopefully that's what you want. It's also okay if this is not your thing. But if it is, you will have a lot of fun and you will get results. So that's it for me tonight. And now Andy will give you some practical information.
So the course begins on the 15th of October, runs on Tuesdays, every second Tuesday, 6 o'clock. One teaching with you, IKYA, for 2 to 3 hours, and that includes questions and answers toward the end of it. Of course, you get the new mantra, then we practice and meet again 2 weeks later on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock for singing and meditating together, going through the teaching, and then meeting in our Ganapati study groups at the end of that. And that will be about 2 hours as well. And it runs, because it dances with the crystal course, it runs about 1 year, even though there's 10 mantra. It takes a full year to get through the mantra course. All the practical information you need is at our website, ikya.org, including sign up. So I won't take any more time unless there are any other practical questions before we go. Nope. Okay.
That's it. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, everybody. Have a lovely evening.